For good 5 years, Awolowo and Nnamdi Azikiwe bargained with the British Empire within the period of 1954 to 1959. They were rejected and were told strictly go and meet the Fulani's. When you have a compromise, you come back to get your independence. And since that very day, that belief is if you must get to a political position, you have to compromise with the Fulani man in the north. Today we can see that Nnamdi Kanu has rejected to compromise with the federal government right from the very moment he got kidnapped from Kenya, but by the very last Fulani man we had as a president, Muhammad Buhari. He was told to openly denounce every love and passion he has for the emancipation of Biafra. But Nnamdi Kanu said, I reject any form of compromise. Gone are the days where his forefathers and his forebears, mistakenly, unknowingly, went into a deal that is getting us all trapped today in this contraption called Nigeria. He has said, no, I am not going to compromise. And since that very moment, the North, the Northerners, the oligarchs have all vowed that Nnamdi Kanu, come what may, will be in that dungeon for as long as he is alive. But we are thankful for the grace of the likes of Donald Trump, who are the current president of the most powerful nation in the whole wide world. We all must be aware that Nnamdi Kanu is a keen supporter of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was about to get into that position, we saw how the federal government hurriedly tried to release Nnamdi Kanu. But again, somehow they brought in some new charges saying that, well, this is now a political trial. It is no longer a trial that is based on terrorism, based on treason, but a political one. We even saw during that time that Donald Trump was about to be inaugurated in America, whereby so many Southeast governors were now sending the request to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the president of Nigeria today, that please let us have, I would be a surety, why don't we have an Nnamdi Kanu released? If Nnamdi Kanu wants to be released in the next 1 hour, all he needs to do is to compromise with the demands of the Fulani oligarchs. Don't forget, those that arrested Nnamdi Kanu is not Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It is the leader of the Fulani oligarchs, Muhammad Buhari. And why was he arrested? Because he has rejected the compromise his forebears had with the Sardaunas, with the Ahmad Bellos within the period of 1954 to 1959 into the independence, into the facade, the mirage called independence of Nigeria. Back then, we were supposed to have a Nigeria that let the South go. If the Southern Nigeria wanted to have its own independence, let it be. But the British said, no, you and the North are conjoined, forcefully conjoined, not divinely conjoined, forcefully conjoined by the machinations of the British colonial masters. So therefore, the emancipation of any region depends and relies on any decision made by the collective people in the North. And these are those Fulani oligarchs that we are talking about. Okay, we are still going to talk about what is going on in today's current political arena, whereby there has been so many attacks on Peter Obi. Okay, Peter Obi is being attacked, and for Peter Obi to actually surmount and override those attacks that are largely coming from the Southwesterners, now is for a Peter Obi to get to a point that, okay, I think I need to compromise with a Fulani man. Now, it is up to a Peter Obi to decide. But we will talk about the cons and pros. If he thinks he's going to compromise, so be it. But what it is sure, in this contraption that we have today, that the power brokers, those holding Nnamdi Kanu, right? Those determining the fate of Nnamdi Kanu are the Fulani oligarchs. And these are the people that are just aggressively, these are the people that are sticking their neck all out, threatening a Tinubu that, listen, anybody that asks for the release of Nnamdi Kanu will be treated as a betrayer and a traitor and an enemy of the state. My question is there an enemy of this southern Nigeria or the enemy of the northern Nigeria? Which one are you talking about? Because for me, as a Yoruba person, I do not have anything to lose if an Nnamdi Kanu comes out. In fact, my own is let Nnamdi Kanu get his justice without any further delay. There is a judgment that has been passed about 2 years ago thereabout by the appeal court. Let this man go. But then the power that be, the Attorney General there, Malami, came out, defied the court rulings. Where a country where there's no rule of law, there's no regard for human rights, and then somehow they are still holding him extrajudiciously. This is the case. Nnamdi Kanu is going into into his trial today, facing the Nigerian jurisprudence with voluntary 4 additional senior advocates of Nigerians. And most of these senior advocates of Nigerians are not all Igbos. These are mostly southern senior advocates of Nigerians who are just keenly interested that this man has not done anything so evil, like for him to be unjustly incarcerated, going to 5 years. He hasn't had access to his wife. He hasn't had access, when I mean had access, he hasn't had access to live with his wife for good 5 years. You can see that they are now even risking his life in a situation where this man can just all of a sudden develop what we call a prostate cancer. Imagine in a situation whereby you've not been able to live with a woman for 5 good years as a man who is a matured person. But that is not even the crux of the matter. That is just by the way. He has had an opportunity to move around. No freedom of why? He said, as a Nigerian that he is, that for as long as Nigeria is a part of the signatory to the United Nations Charter, every group of people has the right to seek for self-determination. Nnamdi Kanu did just not wake up one day and started pushing for this. Before this deteriorated to the level of Nnamdi Kanu becoming a serial and a very aggressive agitator, he first and foremost outlined his demands, the demands of his people. About 7 of it. Resource control. It might not be 100% resource control, but let us have additional resource control of whatever things that we find under our soil. Secondly, he demanded that let us have waterways. The Igbos have been known to be heavily involved in trading, import and export. Let us have that. Thirdly, let us have a very fortified and formidable security architecture and apparatus within the Southeast Corridor. And then let us have a country that is justiciable, that is equitable, that there's fairness, that there's equal chances to opportunity. He is simply calling for meritocracy, not for this cauterization of governance, whereby where people are not even qualified, they are given a political position. He said, no, let us have, what is Nnamdi Kanu simply calling for? He's calling for a country that is devoid of favoritism, but meritocracy. He's calling for a country whereby in every region of this country, everybody has equal chances to equal opportunities. But these are what the powers that be, the power brokers of the current country called Nigeria, do not want. And like I said, he has rejected the easy way out, which is for him to compromise. Now let us go to the issue of Peter Obi. Peter Obi, who came out in the last 2-3 days, he went to Johns Hopkins to only simply reel out the obvious truth that Nigeria is swimming in a pool of poverty. The Nigerians have gone from poor to poorest. In Africa, Nigeria seems to be the capital of poverty. That Nigeria today cannot boast of 6 hours of power electricity across board. Not that in some secluded area that there will be power. Otherwise, why would the president be budgeting a sum of 10 billion to approve or to build a solar installation, even in the state house called the Aso Rock? These are the things Peter Obi said. But ever since then, we can see that so many vultures and vampires have been unleashed to go and attack him. But we can see that not one Northerner, not one Fulani man has spoken against Peter Obi. It has only been the Yorubas that have been attacking Peter Obi. I took my time, I went online to search. What I've been seeing is the Yorubas influencers who are hardened followers. They mostly are paid, by the way. I've been attacking Peter Obi, telling him that, Oga, when you were the governor of Anambra State, you took the poverty rate from where you met it to even a worsened stage. That Anambra was at 30-something% poverty rate, but when Obi left there, it was around 50-something%. That Obi has no moral standing or anything moral right to talk about Tinubu. First and foremost, what they are failing to understand is Peter Obi is a Nigerian citizen. And beyond that, Peter Obi has the platform to speak the truth that most of us do not have the platform and, of course, the voice to actually do. And Peter Obi has to say the truth. They are saying to Peter Obi that, why don't you go out there and colorize our problems, deodorize our problems? Oh no, what Peter Obi is doing is actually the right thing, because he's hitting Tinubu in the right places. And as we know right now that the Fulani'S themselves want Tinubu to be ousted. The Igbos want Tinubu to be ousted. But where we have the conflict of interest is who will replace Tinubu. Will it be an Igbo person or will it be a Fulani person? And that is where I talked about the Igbos' inroad to presidency is a dilemma that lies on a compromise with the Fulani'S. Would the Igbos get to that point that let us compromise with these northern power brokers so that we can hoist Tinubu out? Maybe another additional compromise is we might sacrifice ourselves for a Fulani man to go in there, but immediately after that, then an Igbo man has to come. And it has to be a written document. Can a Peter Obi do this? But again, his supporters, who are largely known as the obedient groups, are saying that Peter Obi must go on a solo run. But is that truly possible with the level of maturity and development and exposure that Nigerians have today? Do not forget that those that decide what goes in Nigeria are still the Northerners. Whether we like it or not, they have the population, and they are largely controlled by their religious leaders, their political elite, who throw crumbs to them, and of course, they just tell them go and they go. Most of them are uneducated, so they look up to their leaders for information. Whether the information is a deforming one, a misaligning one, doesn't matter, they just go through it. We heard how so many Northerners came online to confess that, well, the only reason why I voted for Peter Obi was because my religious leader in my mosque told me vote for him. Some of them said that I regret voting for Tinubu now because it was sold to me by my alpha. It was sold to me by my pastor. It was sold to me by my traditional leader in the north. So these are the conversations. And where would the Igbo man be? There's a saying that they said that you do not ask who killed your father if you do not have the gun or the sword yet. An Igbo man must get to a point of realization that yes, we were cheated within the period of 1966 to 1970 when we had the Nigerian Civil War. But for Igbo man to get a justice, they must stoop low to conquer. What does that mean? Are you ready to compromise? I'm not advising them to compromise with the Yorubas. Because the Yorubas are already in bed. What the Igbos must try to do is let us take away the Yorubas who are in bed with the northern oligarchs. Let us fill in that gap. Because as it stands today, if Tinubu wants to divide the Nigerian contraption, he has every opportunity to do it. Because he stooped so low, he bowed down for the leader of the Fulani head men, or should I say the Fulani oligarchs, a Buhari man, when we saw how Tinubu, tirelessly campaign for Buhari within the period of 2013 and into 15, and even as of 2019, when we thought that they were having some, issues internally, Tinubu still came out and said, I will campaign for my president. And he did. Come 2023, Tinubu is the president. If Tinubu today wants to say, okay, let us have a Nigeria that is confederationalized, or that is regionalized, or a country that will practice federalism, resource control, and Tinubu, considering the level of power the Nigerian president has, Tinubu can actually push for it. And indeed, all the Southerners will support him. But it seems that Tinubu is only there for his own personal interest, because we are not seeing him acting what the Nigerian people want. The true Nigerian people, the true people who want development for this country, understand that the current structure that we have will never work. Hence, the reason why the people in the south, largely, and in the middle belt, will always demand that let us have a situation whereby Nigeria, you eat what you earn. Definitely, let us have a situation of federalism. Let us have a situation of resource control. Let us have a situation of state policing. But amidst all this, those that are against it are the north. And this is why they are saying that Tinubu must go out. Will Peter Obi have the capacity and the understanding and wisdom to have that compromise? It's not going to be easy, because the Fulani's, the Northerners, want someone they can control easily. That is who they want. Will Peter Obi have the wisdom to play along? Like I said, in English simply means that when your hand has not gotten to the sword, you've not gotten a grip of the sword, you don't ask who killed my father. No matter how the Igbos might feel resented, they might feel disgruntled, no matter how, power is power. You need to have power first. Now, how you have the power at this stage doesn't matter. You could decide to wait for additional 4 years to have that power. But you know that when you eventually have the power, then you can begin to implement your agenda. But what I see on the timeline is the Peter Obi might not be able to swallow such, he might not be able. Well, at this stage, let's just pray and support that first and foremost, Nnamdi Kanu never compromises. I never wish for him to compromise, because if he does, he will dwindle the spirit of the common Igbo man. And secondly, he will dwindle the spirit of a common Southerner. Thirdly, for Peter Obi, I hope and I wish that he takes his decisions on time. The next election is just around the corner. Whether you like it or not, the political fate and destiny of an Igbo ordinary man relies on Peter Obi's next decision. And I do not think Peter Obi should go into the political arena all by himself. He needs the support of the Northerners. Yes, we might agree that the Northerners cannot be trusted, but I think he needs the support. How this support will come, on whatever terms, I cannot guarantee. I do not know, because Tinubu got in there with the support of the North, and now everything is against the North, which means that the North needs to get into power to appease them, maybe for a period of 4 years, and after that, they will have the Igbo man. The structure has been laid down by the British colonial masters, and that was why, while I started, that when Nigeria needed its independence, when the southern Nigeria was extremely overly ready, the British colonial master said, go and have a compromise with the North. Without a compromise with the North, you people will never move forward. And now I am saying to Peter Obi, I think you should go in there, think about the negotiations you're going to have with those Fulani people, You guys should have a documentation of whatever agreement you have and go and kick out President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If you're just joining, please kindly like, subscribe, and share. Bye for now.